I spent every day behind the wheel of my big truck, speeding along the country's roads, and every time the road taught me its lessons. My grandfather used to say, "You want to grow up fast in mind and spirit? Become a trucker." The day it all began, I was once again convinced of his words. My way lay from a small town to a huge metropolis, and it was only 500 kilometers away. I was traveling alone, and I had plenty of time to think. The snowy landscape flashed behind the windows of the truck, and the temperature was jumping from minus to plus. The road was slippery, and a mushy mass of snow and mud had formed on it. As I drove past another small village, I noticed a man with a huge bag on the side of the road. I slowed down and he hurried over to me. We quickly agreed that I would give him a ride to the town I was heading to. He introduced himself as Stas, 28 years old, working as a web designer. Stas turned out to be a pleasant conversationalist, and his stories about working in the IT industry helped brighten the long hours of the trip. We had driven about 200 kilometers when my phone rang. It was my wife, Marina. She asked when I would be back home and informed me that she had a surprise for me. I promised that I would be there soon. After the call, Stas suddenly became nervous and tried several times to reach someone on his phone. Each time he started the conversation with an introduction, which was strange considering he was clearly calling someone he knew. Finally, after another communication failure, I asked him what was going on. Stas sighed and began to tell his story. Stas and Irina met at a party at a mutual friend's house. He was 2 years older than her, and at first sight they were attracted to each other. Irina had just graduated from university and was looking for a job, while Stas had already been working as a web designer for several years and was starting to make a career. At first their relationship was full of romance. They walked in parks, watched movies, and traveled on weekends. Stas was fascinated by Irina, her energy and cheerfulness. She knew how to enjoy every day, infecting him with her optimism. Irina, in turn, admired his determination and support. He was the man who always found a way out of difficult situations and was ready to help not only her, but also his friends. She often said that it was men like Stas who made the world a better place. A year later, they decided to move in together. By that time, Stas had saved enough money to buy a small one-room apartment. Life together seemed to them the beginning of a new chapter, full of hopes and plans for the future. They discussed the wedding and even chose possible honeymoon destinations. Irina wanted to go to Europe, and Stas dreamed of a trip to Japan. They argued for a long time about where to go, but in the end they decided that they could visit both countries at different periods of their life together. Over time, however, something began to change. Irina began to spend more time away from home. She made excuses about work and new projects, which she claimed helped them save up for the wedding and future trips. Stas tried not to notice her frequent delays, convincing himself that everything was normal. He didn't want to ruin their harmony with suspicions. Irina, on the other hand, was becoming more and more withdrawn and irritable. In the evenings, when Stas waited for her at home with dinner, she came tired and with a strained smile. But one day he noticed that Irina began to often linger after work and come home late at night. She attributed it to fitness and massages at a nearby center. Stas, though naive, began to suspect that something was wrong. He asked her why the bruises appeared after the classes, but Irina assured him that it was from the intense workouts and massages. Her explanations seemed less and less believable to him. At some point, he decided to check her words and went to the fitness center, where, as he was told, there were no massage services at all. This came as a shock to him. He couldn't believe that the woman he loved and trusted could deceive him like that. A conversation with the administrator of the fitness center confirmed his worst fears. Back home, Stas asked Irina directly why she had lied. She tried to dodge the answer, but finally admitted that her delays after work were caused by her meetings with another man. The conversation became stormy and emotional. Irina claimed that her cheating was an accidental mistake and apologized. She cried, begged him to understand, said that she herself did not know how it happened. But Stas could not forgive her so easily. He felt that their relationship could no longer be the same as before. All her words sounded like empty excuses. He couldn't forget how often she had lied to him, looking him in the eye. The decision to separate was painful but inevitable. Stas sold the apartment and left, leaving Irina a chance to rethink her life. He decided to start fresh in another city, hoping that time would help him heal his wounds and find a new love that would be honest and sincere. This story reminded him that sometimes you have to go through hardships to find true happiness. Stas tried to immerse himself in work to distract himself from thoughts of the past. He spent a lot of time at the computer, developing new projects and communicating with clients. But every evening, coming home, he felt empty. He missed those little joys that were connected with Irina. Even the smell of her perfume, which he sometimes accidentally caught in crowded places, caused him mixed feelings. One day, he received a letter from Irina. She wrote that she regretted what had happened and wanted everything back. She asked him to give her a second chance. Stas thought about her words for a long time. In his heart still lived the pain of betrayal, but he realized that he himself was not perfect. He too had made mistakes and hadn't always paid enough attention to her. They met in a small cafe where they once liked to spend time. Irina looked tired and depressed, but there was hope in her eyes. They talked for a long time, discussing their mistakes and feelings. Stas realized that his love for Irina had not completely disappeared, but to start over, they would both need to work hard on themselves and their relationship. Their conversations became more and more frank. Stas learned that Irina felt lonely and misunderstood when he was fully immersed in his work. Her meetings with another man were an attempt to fill the void she felt. They both realized that their relationship needed revision and openness. Stas suggested they try a fresh start, but with one condition. They would work on their problems together, openly discussing everything that was bothering them. Irina agreed, and they began seeing a family psychologist. Their road to rebuilding trust was long and difficult, but they were both willing to go through it for the sake of their future. A few months passed, and their relationship really started to find a new balance. Stas became more attentive and caring, often arranging little surprises for Irina to make her feel special. She, in turn, tried to spend more time at home and maintain an atmosphere of warmth and comfort. However, life presented them with a new challenge when Stas was sent on a long business trip for 4 months. Irina and Stas regularly called each other, shared the joys and worries of the day. They looked forward to returning to each other, dreaming of the time they could spend together. It so happened that Stas's return was a week earlier than planned. He opened the apartment door with a sense of joy and expectation to hug Irina again. But what he saw made him freeze in the threshold. Irina was lying on the couch, cuddled up with another man. There was an awkward silence in the room, broken only by their heavy breathing. Stas couldn't believe his eyes. Everything in his world seemed to stop. His heart was pounding frantically in his chest, and his mind was trying to realize what was happening. Irina jumped up from the couch as if electrocuted. She opened her mouth, but could not say anything, only looked fearfully at Stas, who stood completely motionless. There was a tense silence in the room, filled with inexpressible emotion and pain. Stas slowly stepped back, as if from a body that no longer belonged to him. He walked out of the apartment, as if taking all of his shattered hopes and dreams with him. Stas didn't feel pain. He just didn't feel anything. Everything that had been between them had crumbled in an instant, leaving only a broken heart and a dark sense of betrayal. He closed the apartment door behind him and never came back. That day was the point where their story ended. I want to apologize immediately for possible errors in the text or dubbing. I am just learning, and the language of this channel is not my mother tongue. The dubbing is done with the help of artificial intelligence. Please point out errors so I can fix them and improve the quality of the content. Also, I will be glad if you share your thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments is very motivating for me to keep looking for new, interesting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Subscribe to the channel and put a bell to not miss new stories.